The Grand Tour. The tour of the Roman world covered most of the 28th and all of the 29th year of Jesus. Jesus undertook this trip as an interpreter for an Indian business delegation led by Ganid, a wealthy, knowledgeable businessman. Ganid brought with him his young adult son, Ganid. In addition to being an interpreter, Jesus was also the personal teacher for Ganid along the way. They left Jerusalem on Sunday morning, April 26 of the year 22. They made their journey according to the plan they had laid out. And Jesus bid farewell to these Indians in the city of Carrick-Spazinu on the 10th of December of the following year. On this tour of the Mediterranean, Jesus spent about half the day as an interpreter or teacher. The rest of the day was free, and he devoted it to intimate personal contacts with his fellow men. On this trip, no significant accidents or unforeseen events happened, worse than some delay due to a ship's rudder breaking down. Through his own observation and actual contact, Jesus familiarized himself with the higher material and intellectual civilization of the West. He lived this journey in the midst of a group of Indians, so he also learned their culture and ways of life. The Indians were in awe of Jesus, and he taught them the way to the Heavenly Father. Ganid soon noticed how his teacher spent his free time with all kinds of people from all walks of life. This was very unusual for this Indian young man, where the caste system prevented contact with others. Curious, he once asked, "Why are you constantly talking to strangers?" Jesus then answered him, "To one who knows God, no one is a stranger." When you experience that God is your Father in heaven, you also discover that all other people are your brothers. I take pleasure in getting to know other people because they are my brothers. Getting to know your brothers and sisters, knowing their problems, and learning to love them, is the supreme experience in life. Another time Ganid asked Jesus what the difference is between the will of God and the human conscious act of choosing, which, after all, is also called will. What Jesus said boiled down to this: the will of God is the way of God. If you do God's will, then you become a partaker in God's choice. Another choice is also possible. Therefore, doing the will of God is the progressive experience of becoming more and more like God. God is the source and destination of all that is good, clean, and true. The will of man is the way of man. The will is the choice of a self-conscious being that leads to decision-making behavior grounded in intelligent consideration. From the port city of Joppa, they embarked for Alexandria, then traveled through Crete and Cyrene to the newly rebuilt Carthage, and later on to Rome via Sicily and Naples. The Indian delegation had set the goal of opening trading houses in all the major cities in the Roman Empire. As a result, they often stayed for weeks or months in these large cities. Sometimes they had to wait for an answer from India, which in those days could take as long as 2 months before a courier brought back a message. For example, Jesus lived in Rome for over 6 months, where he was housed in the Indian community. Everywhere Jesus went, he sought religious and intellectual life. During this journey, he had many profound conversations with Stoics and priests of all kinds of religions. Especially during the 6 months he spent in Rome, he built many relationships with religious leaders in a short time. At first, they respected him for his wisdom, but soon they were hungry for his teaching of truth. The method of teaching Jesus used was as follows: not once did he attack them on their errors or even mention the weaknesses in their teachings. Each time he brought out what was true in what they were teaching and then began to make this truth so much more beautiful and clearer in their thinking that this deepening of truth effectively shut out the error associated with it in a very short time. Jesus must have foreseen that his messengers would soon come to Rome to proclaim the kingdom of heaven. Therefore he began to prepare their way in a most amazing way so that their message would be recognized. We believe that his profound teaching in Rome accelerated the spread of Christianity in the Roman Empire. Jesus taught priests of the Mithras cult in Rome, who later personally helped convert their great Mithras temple into one of the first Christian churches in Rome. Only these priests never knew that their noble teacher was the same as the risen Christ. On the way back, they traveled through the Greek city-states, Nicopolis and Corinth, to Athens, from where they embarked for Troas in Asia Minor. From there, they traveled via Ephesus to Cyprus and Antioch. From Antioch, they joined a camel caravan that took them to Sidon and Damascus. From there, they left the Roman Empire by land by traveling westward into Mesopotamia. They traveled via Babylon past the ruins of ancient Ur to the Persian Gulf. At Charax-Spazinu, Jesus bid farewell to the Indians. All the Indians had come to love Jesus, and their eyes were full of tears as they said goodbye. The young Ganid, who had had Jesus as a private teacher for over a year and a half, spoke the moving words at this farewell, "In my opinion, the Father in heaven must be someone like you. For you show many similarities to what you have told me about him.